Thank you. Patrick Hamby on behalf of Entergy Louisiana. I'm going to start out with a couple of key points regarding our damage assessment and some of those results from a high-level standpoint, as it's still kind of an ongoing beginning phase. We've completed yesterday, day one of our damage assessment. At first daylight, we were out and assessing damages to see and get an inventory of what poles are down, how many spans of wires are down, how many transformers are down, all the associated equipment, cross arms, things like that. That's on our to-do list. We're checking that off. We're GPS coordinating it, making sure those locations of where the damages are documented. And the whole reason we do that is because if we don't know where the damages are, what the damages are, it's like trying to shoot in the dark. So we get that list compiled. We make sure that we get it on the right trucks with the right crews. Some are qualified to do certain work that others are not. So there's a big safety issue that has to be considered there too. It's all about an organized effort to make sure that this is done as safe as possible, not only for the public, but for our workers as well, and as efficient as possible. So please be patient as we do go through and take that inventory yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and into the next days. I'll touch a little bit on the damage assessment results to date. I mentioned it's fairly new, it's ongoing. Obviously, we have a way to go, but there are three general buckets that we look at. And generation is the first bucket, and there are a sequential three buckets. You have to have the first, which is generation, our power plants, operable before you're able to go anywhere. So the good news is we do not have any constraints with generation and power plant capacity. However, the next step is transmission lines. That's the high voltage lines that come directly out of the generating power plants. Those we do have damages on. Everyone, I'm sure, has heard or seen the river crossing structure right by the Avondale Fire Department. That, I think it was around 5:30. I got reports from the EOC from that fire department with a picture, and I believe there may have been some tornadic activity. I was talking to somebody in the elevator up here who's lost their girlfriend's total home, and it was right in that area. And this structure made it through Katrina. It's a sound structure that only a catastrophic hurricane coupled with tornadic activity could do this kind of damage. Shortly thereafter, I received the picture. Within an hour, it had collapsed and was on the floor. So that's just one example during the transmission damage assessment of something that did happen that is catastrophic. If you consider the region we're at, there are three main corridors that come into the greater New Orleans region, including Jefferson Parish and the whole basic southeast region over here. We have 8 transmission lines, and that was just one of them. The other 7 have damages as well, not as catastrophic as that, but we're in the process of evaluating all those damages on the transmission side. The third bucket is distribution. That is when the transmission lines, the high lines, come down into your neighborhoods, the wooden poles, the underground facilities serving small commercial businesses and neighborhoods. We're in the process. It's more of a tedious process. The transmission damage assessment can largely be done via helicopter. It's not necessarily running through neighborhoods. You're not having to, run into road hazards, and it's not as tedious as the distribution is when we have trees down on the ground. We have poles obviously down on the ground, and that's what we're counting is the poles as well as the trees, because we have to clear the trees. In most cases, the trees are entangled in our lines, so those have to be cleared and coordinated in order to get service restored. Thousands of poles have been identified as being down, and that again is on the distribution side. The transmission side, again, is ongoing. I will touch on the transmission tower that's down. I mentioned that there are 7 other lines out of 3 corridors. So just because that transmission tower is down does not mean that the power in this area and the area around that transmission structure that fell down will not have power until that is reconstructed. There are ways to reconfigure the transmission system via those other routes, presuming that they don't have damage, and reroute the power. Kind of like putting a puzzle together just a little bit different to work your way around that damage. So that's the good news in that particular with that particular failure. Another thing we have done, we're working hand in hand with the Emergency Operations Center team here. the United States Coast Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers, because we want to make sure, number one, that line is safe. Nobody on the river traffic, the river's closed now, but that nobody gets hurt coming near that line. So what we've done, we've had multiple emails and a call today, and we have another planned call this afternoon, or this evening rather, after this this press conference, to talk about how to get that damaged wire out of the river so that we can open up the Mississippi River for commerce and relief traffic as well. So that is ongoing, and we're working hand in hand with multiple agencies. So I say all that, this is day 2. Typically in day 2, that's kind of where I would end my report. However, we do have, you know, a glimmer of light, or hope, if you will. We sent a press release out. Some of the members here in the press may have it already. It was this evening. The first light is coming. Our target to the greater New Orleans region is to have first light, and it's limited, is coming tomorrow by midnight. So if you think about the path of Ida and where it went, Grand Isle's been mentioned quite a few times. That was a direct hit on the worst side of the storm, catastrophic damage, and then the storm, if you remember, bowed a little bit to the west and then curved back over to the northeast. So the least amount of damage in this area, in the greater New Orleans area, is on that eastern side of our grid, to the east of New Orleans, in that area, where when we're assessing these transmission lines, which ones can we bring on first and which ones need work before we're able to safely provide power via those lines. We found one, and we have actually 2 options if that one is not actually available after we do some more research on that. But we do have 2 options, definitely able to get first light by midnight tomorrow. We're going to get the New Orleans power station energized. We're going to step up. It's been explained to me as if you're going up steps, small steps. So you can bring on a little bit at a time, because we do have damages, and you don't want to overload the system, because if you do that, then you end up causing more damages than good. So we're working on that by midnight tomorrow. What that means is, in New Orleans, we're going to start with the New Orleans power station and then work our way west over to the 9-mile unit right here in Jefferson Parish and build off of that. And when I say first light, again, I'm going to go back. It's limited power. We're going to be able to work with the critical infrastructure, such as hospitals, other critical infrastructure, and that's all contingent on if they do not have damages to the distribution feeders leading up to their facilities. And we're doing stringent engineering studies to make sure that we don't try to bring on electricity to a damaged feeder that may actually backfire and cause more damage to the system. So it's a methodical process, but it's here, and it's the first sign of hope. So what I can say about Orleans is where we're going to start. I mentioned that's the side with the least amount of damages, and we're coming in that way and working our way to the west to close that loop over there by the 9-mile power unit. The prep work that we're doing here, though, in the meantime, in Jefferson Parish, you'll notice it if you're over there in Kenner by the levee. We had 12 poles down, serves a hospital. We've been doing prep work, setting new poles, getting everything ready. So when that transmission does come over here, we're able to heat up things a little bit quicker, electrify things a little bit quicker. So we're doing a lot of prep work for our critical facilities as we speak. So I know the most important answer to the question that everybody wants, to hear is, when are we going to hear estimated restoration times? So beyond what I've told you about the first light from the New Orleans power station and then working west to 9 Mile, we won't really have a good hold on estimated power restoration times until the next day or 2. And as that information becomes available, I'll be here to disseminate it to everyone. I will start with the parish, the Emergency Operations Center. We'll let the press, our customers, everybody know. As soon as we know, you will know. And the way that works, we'll have a broader region of the parish, more of an area, not really, you can't go house by house by house by house at this point, but then after days of more work is done and we've cleared more room, we will get granular and get down to the neighborhood level, then down to the street level, and then down to the individual home level. It just takes time. It's a methodical, tedious process. So I'll close it with a couple different things. What Sheriff Lapinto said and Joe Valiente from the EOC said, please stay off the streets. If you stay off the streets, not only are you helping your own safety, you're keeping the roads open and allowing our crews to move freely, which means they can move quicker, which means you can get your lights on faster. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. It is unfortunate that we did not have more time for people to evacuate. It is great that people are taking time now that the roads are open and getting out of town to a safe, more comfortable spot. I would advise that if you have the means to do that. Also, obviously, down power lines, they're everywhere. And I mentioned this before the storm. Don't take it upon yourself to try and judge whether it's energized. I know power is out, whether it's Cox, whether it's AT&T, but you think the power is out and everything is de-energized. That may not be the case. We have a lot of people that are putting generators on their homes and their businesses, and everyone may not do it appropriately. They may not follow the directions, and we may have some backfeed from those generators that goes back onto what people think are not live down power wires. However, because of that backflow and that faulty installation of 1, 2, 3, however many generators in the area, you will have live wires, and if you touch them, you will potentially have a fatality on your hands. So please stay away from down power lines. Call 1-800-ENTERGY and let us know about that. So that is the report I have for day 2, and I look forward to more progress and better reports for day 3, 4, 5, and so on. Thank you.